Anthony Melchiori, we are live. It's Tuesday. I'm excited.
Anthony Melchiori, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Anthony Melchiori.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Lives. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hey, everybody. Glenn Hausman here. I hope you're doing well. And we got, of course, the one, the only, the incredible Mr. Anthony Melchiori joining us every single day as my incredible co-host. Anthony, it is so good to see you. You know, you accused me of not being in a good mood just before we went on the show. And I think it's important to let you know that my mood is absolutely wonderful.
Okay. All right. So I apologize. So today,
the problem is, Anthony, it's because I'm not wearing my Hawaiian Aloha shirt. I'm not in Hawaii anymore. I'm not at the Westin Hotel in National Harbor, which is operated by Crestline Hotels. We've got someone from Crestline coming up on here today, as a matter of fact. How are you?
I realized during that intro, I need a tan, bro.
You
in the intro, I got a lot of tan. I look like white as a ghost.
Yeah, you know what? I think, Anthony, we need to get some people in Florida to sponsor us and get us down there to do some live broadcasts from a hotel, either there.
Yeah. I think I want to wait a minute on Florida until they realize there's a pandemic. Then maybe I'll go down there.
All right. So breaking news: we're going to be broadcasting live from Florida in 2027. I'm looking forward to that one. All right. I want to thank Best Buy for being an awesome sponsor on our show. We couldn't do it without great companies such as them. Check out bestbuy.com/hospitality because they will help you with everything that you need, whether it's any IT consulting. They even have patio furniture, sanitizing solutions, the whole gambit over there. And don't forget about their Geek Squad. They can help you in any issues that you need. Check them out at bestbuy.com/hospitality. Anthony, I'm excited for today's show. We're going to be talking in just a few minutes about how folks in the future of hospitality students, what they can think about, whether or not it's even worth getting a degree in hospitality anymore, what the future of the hotel business is going to be like for them. But before we do that, Anthony,
I will say the future is hospitality, 100%.
Yeah,
future is hospitality, 100%. And I think there's tremendous potential. You're going to see what happens this summer. This summer you're going to see numbers that you've never seen before, especially in drive-through destinations. And so I know you're going to tee it up. And we're going to talk about things. So this part of the podcast is called "What's in the News." So what's in the news, Glenn?
What's in the news? All right. So not too much happening in the news, although check out novacancynews.com. Accor made put out a release today talking about all the hotels that are going to be opening around the world in 2021, including the rebranding of the Century Plaza Hotel, where the Alice conference used to take place many, many years ago. It's been a lot of different brands, most recently a Westin, like the one behind me. It's going to become a Fairmont. Davidson Hotel, Anthony, this is interesting. Davidson Hotels is starting a brand new resort division and putting 11 of their hotels into that portfolio. I think this is a move we're going to be seeing a lot of different hotel companies start to make to differentiate between those locations that seem to be doing well and the urban locations, which are not doing as well.
Yeah. You say urban locations and I want to cry. I want to cry about New York. I want to cry about what's happening in these big cities. And, where those are the hotels and those are the owners that everybody else was like, wow, I wish I was you. I wish I owned a big conference hotel in New York City. Although not me, I always wanted to own a boutique hotel in New York City. But and now they're the people that everybody is like, oh, I don't want to be you.
Right. So a lot of challenges going on, and we'll see how that fits in when we bring the George Mason people on in just a second. But Anthony, you specifically said you wanted to talk about Duncan Hines today. Absolutely delicious goodies we can make at home, but he had a different life beforehand, right?
Well, somebody actually, I saw it on Instagram somewhere, and someone said, I didn't know Duncan Hines was a real person. And Duncan Hines was a real person. And Duncan Hines was actually in the hospitality industry. He wrote about travels. He wrote about different states and different restaurants. And I just found it fascinating that before he sold his recipes to a big conglomerate, he was just that guy.
Hey,
He was a regular guy, Duncan Hines, and I admired him because he was talking about travel and different restaurants in different towns. Back in the day when he was traveling around the country, I think he was a traveling salesman or something. Right. There was no guide to what's the best place to eat. So him and his wife came up with this guide that became pretty successful. Somehow he got into the baking business. I don't remember how. And now we all have Duncan Hines in our kitchen.
That's pretty awesome. And it makes me think about all of those people early on that they've come disassociated from the names they have, right? Like Dr. Kellogg, for example, right? Mm-hmm. Although I'm not sure there's a General Mills.
Or Heimlich, the Heimlich maneuver. I checked in Mr. Heimlich at the Plaza Hotel once. I was like, is that Mr. Heimlich? Like I'm choking up with tears.
All right, that's pretty interesting. Now, if people are not successful at the Heimlich maneuver, I did one time at Mohegan Sun share an elevator with Dr. Bodden, perhaps the world's most famous forensic pathologist.
Dr. Who?
Dr. Bodden. You remember those HBO shows where they talked about dead people and stuff like that, and he investigated the reasons behind their deaths? It was really, really interesting. Look up Dr. Michael Bodden, everybody. Really interesting human being.
Okay, to talk about interesting human beings, what interesting human beings are going to be on the show today?
Oh, right. Great segue, Anthony Melchiori. I love it. I'm a little bit jealous of that one. Today we're going to be talking to, we got Maggie Pearson, Deanne Johnson joining us today. Hello, one and all. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're hoping to hear from somebody else real soon. I think they're having some connection errors. Thank you so much for joining us today. Anthony, today, to cue it up for our audience, we're going to be talking again about the future of the hospitality business, what that means for hospitality students, and what their future pathways to success might be. Let's start it off with Deanne. Deanne, you're over. Please unmute yourselves. I think you've both managed to mute yourselves accidentally there. Thank you so much, Deanne. Let's start with you today, okay? I'm very curious as to what's the situation over at Crestline Hotels? What are you thinking about these days when it comes to that next generation of hospitality executives?
Sure. So we are anxiously awaiting the opportunity to bring them on back in. Crestline has a great management training program that we're very proud of. And through that program, we've been able to place college students into positions of management, typically starting at a sales manager, an AGM, positions such as that. And we are anxiously awaiting the opportunity to do that in the very near future. I mean, we anticipate, by April, things are going to start picking up again. And as Anthony said earlier, the summer is going to start, buzzing along. So come the fall, we should be in a good position to start getting our college recruits back in the system. And we have been very successful with our program. We have one individual who started in our program, I want to say 6-7 years ago down in Virginia Beach. And she has been a general manager for us now for 3 years at one of our select service hotels and is doing an awesome job.
I love the fact that somebody can go from, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No, please go on.
I love the fact that somebody can go out of college, become assistant general manager in 3 years, do a great job. And if you ever want to learn the hotel business, Glenn, become an assistant general manager, because this is what happens. Yeah. You get blamed for everything. Okay. You see everything. You realize the general manager is either really good or really bad. And then if you're really, really good at taking all that crap and really good at taking all the blame when your general manager does something wrong, you get promoted when he gets fired or she gets fired.
Yeah.
I love that. Sounds it's either that or a government job. I love it.
Yeah, for people who are in college right now, they really should think about operations, because that's where the opportunities are going to be. It's not so much in sales. Revenue management sounds all sexy and whatnot. But operations is really where you get to know the business. You learn, like Anthony said, you learn everything. Right.
But I would say revenue management, even if you just stepped in there for a month, I think revenue management, I know I would never hire a general manager that couldn't explain to me what a star report was and couldn't read one really, really well. I think revenue management, again, if you want to be a general manager, you can't be a revenue manager for like 6 years because nobody wants you to leave. But definitely getting that ability under your belt is the number one priority as far as I'm concerned. And then operations is obviously the most important, but that 1 month of revenue management is critical. I wish I learned revenue management early on. I would have been probably a lot more successful earlier.
To be fair, Anthony, early on in your career, people weren't really thinking about revenue management in the same way they do today. It's really become a lot more complex. Maggie, now that we've decided that operations is the future and not conferences, let's have you talk a little bit about what you do at Conference Managers and what your outlook is for the immediate term and a little bit later on.
Great, thanks. So Conference Managers is just that. So we plan nonprofit trade shows and conventions for different groups around the U.S. We have about 30 clients right now, and we've been in business for about 31 years. And it's really exciting. In fact, we just had an intern start today from George Mason. So we're really excited, and we really like to work with folks and get them set up to do events in the future.
Yeah, and when someone says to me, "Hey, Anthony, I'm thinking about being a conference service manager, or a revenue manager, or an operations person," the last thing I would tell them to be right now is a conference service manager, because I'm scared. So tell me why I shouldn't be scared, and tell me why I should tell everybody they should be a conference service manager.
So I think a lot of the
Sorry. We're going to get back to it, and conferences are going to be bigger and better than ever. I
didn't ask you, Glenn.
I know. I'm going to let her talk now. Don't worry, Anthony. Sorry, Maggie.
No worries. So I think there's a lot of it. I think we've gone through a lot of change this year. I basically had to relearn how to do my job. I went from an in-person sort of boots on the ground person, managing events from 200 people to 10,000 is the size of my largest group. And we completely virtualized those meetings. So now I also produce shows virtually with different, vendors that we work with. So I think right now working with students, the biggest thing for us to keep in mind is, the broad ranging skills that they're going to need to come into the future. Virtual is never going to go away. I think there's always going to be a component about meetings surrounding that. So I think making sure that students know what to expect, and it's not all the travel that it used to be. There's a lot of, differences that are popping up right now.
Interesting. Anthony, you've muted yourself over there.
You know the difference between, Glenn, the general manager and the conference manager?
I can't wait to hear this one.
They both can do a lot of things at once, but only a conference manager can concentrate longer.
Right. So, Maggie, you make a great point. So if we're talking about what students could be doing and any industry professionals out there, I think one of the things you need to think about, I don't know if I can say think any more times in one sentence, but one of the things that you should focus on is getting that technology prowess, right? So what are some of the things that you're seeing that's going to make that person well-rounded to be able to deal with both the emergence of these virtual events as a reality and the in-person component too?
I think learning about a lot of the platforms that are available to people, whether it being like honing your skills with Zoom or even the very produced pieces. I think watching webinars, especially our industry puts a lot of content out that's free. I think it's really important to sit on several of those whenever you get the opportunity. Try to figure out what platform they're using, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, and then talk to people. Networking and communication between other planners is really key. You can learn a lot from the people in your circle about what worked well, what didn't, and then knowing what questions to ask when you are vetting your platform vendors is really incredible.
24 months from now, conferences online, are they still a relatively good part of the business, or are they basically gone and people are just tired of conferences online? I know I'm exhausted. I don't want any more conferences online.
But I do have No Vacancy Live every single day. Other than that, I'm not so sure. Maggie?
We are too. It's tiring. It's a lot. It's a lot of commitment. It's a lot of sitting in front of a computer. People in general like to talk to one another face to face. So unless we can get that perfect platform that does everything that you can get at a live event, I think it's always going to be a part of the trade show or a part of the conference or learning experience. But there's no way you can be being in a hotel or a property somewhere, and the serendipitous meeting of people is something that I think we have taken for granted for so long. I mean, it's very hard to recreate in a virtual setting. So I think the more that we can get people together, the better.
How many times a week do either one of you walk out of your desk, away from your desk, and you just go, I do that every day about 5:30.
I I find the most awkward part about virtual conferences, as opposed to real ones, is you can't just move on to the next conversation seamlessly when somebody keeps talking and talking and talking.
Right.
So it's hard to get out. All right, joining us now is Patricia Washington, and she is president and CEO of Visit Alexandria. Welcome to the show, Patricia.
Hey, it's great to be with you.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us. All right, so unfortunately, you had a little bit of a tech issue, probably our fault, so you're a couple of minutes behind the rest of us. I'd like for you to please start out by sharing with us what you are thinking about right now in terms of what students could be preparing for in order to be more actively engaged in the hospitality industry going forward, either through an association such as yours or a more traditional job that people think about when they come out of college.
Well, that's a very big question because things are changing like day to day. So
Right.
my recommendation is for what we're all doing. I mean, every day we're looking at data. We're looking at consumer sentiment data. We're looking at economic forecasts. We're looking at COVID, the COVID predictions. Everything right now depends on the vaccine. We know that consumers are concerned about their health, and the vaccine is the number one thing. When will we reach that herd immunity? That's 70% plus, so we can be free to travel.
I've reached certain size during COVID, so I'm halfway there.
All right. So we know that there's tremendous pent-up demand from what we're seeing in terms of consumer sentiment data, and you guys do such a great job of keeping your audience apprised of what people are thinking, what people are feeling. Everybody wants to get out there. But it's got to be safe. And
drive-through destinations and
Sorry, please continue. You all hear me?
yes.
All right, please continue. I hit a wrong button and something cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs happened there. But sure. What's interesting to me is that, people still have these opportunities, I think, with different associations out there. What is your role right now in helping people move forward in this particular time of crisis?
Well, communications is so key. Communications with consumers about what's happening now, keeping current. We had to do a complete strategy shift when the pandemic started to, ALX. I'm with Visit Alexandria, so Alexandria, Virginia, and Northern Virginia, so right outside of DC.
Yep.
So we had to immediately go into what are the safe things you can do now from home. And we're always updating what's open, of course, we're in inauguration time right now. So what's the current facts on the ground, things on the ground that consumers need to know, and our partners, our businesses, our restaurants, hotels, retailers need to know right now. So that's such a key role that DMOs play right now, is just, communicating with our city partners, with our, stakeholders, our health department, our public safety professionals. We're like the information hub for all of this information and stakeholders. And I think it's a role that DMOs can really play well, helping to get out the current information to our various stakeholders.
most of the people you're talking to now, where would you say their mindset is? Because we're in a very weird place. If you look at the pandemic and what's going on politically and what's going on economically, we're kind of in just like, we're not there. We still seem to be in the middle of the worst part of the pandemic, but it's been almost a year. We see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, we're optimistic, but I'll be honest with you, I'm almost too tired to be optimistic. I'm almost too exhausted, and I'm the most optimistic person you'll ever meet. So I'm just curious, like, how do business owners feel right now? What are you seeing, hearing?
It's tough right now because we're entering into the very toughest part of the pandemic. While, like you said, Anthony, there's a bright light at the end of the tunnel. We're vaccinating, thousands of people right now here in our city, and
awesome.
across the country, we're vaccinating millions of people. So people know, plus there's a new administration that's going to accelerate vaccinations big time. So
I think I see the moving truck, right? There it is.
Yeah. So, we're an optimistic country. We're an optimistic industry. We're in the happy business, right? So yeah, we're geared towards optimism.
And also in happy business.
Yes. So I think we want to get back to that.
Right.
We want to get back to being in the happy business. But I think the recovery, recovery funding that was just passed. People are anxious. They're excited about that. So there's a lot of communications for our performing arts venues. Everyone wants to know, how can we access this next tranche of money so that we can help our business get through the next few months to get to the bright light at the end of the tunnel that Anthony talked about.
Excellent. Maggie, I see you nodding your head over there. So are you focusing on getting aligned with certain DMOs? And for those of you who don't know, that's destination marketing organizations, right? And that's all about promoting different areas. So you probably have to work in concert with the good folks over at places like Visit Alexandria and management companies such as Crestline, right?
We do. So how we work with the different groups is we need the DMOs to give us the information about what's going on in their cities. We have a lot of our groups who've gone virtual this year, but we still have a few groups towards the end of the year that are thinking about being live or hybrid events. And so we really, depend on the DMOs to have the information from their health departments or local city ordinances that we need to be following as we're moving forward. And then we also work with the different hotel brands to make sure that they are implementing the different pieces for safety and health across their brand, which is really handy.
Right. So Deanne, what are you thinking about in this same regard?
We are thinking, like I said earlier, that things are definitely going to get better. We have been really focusing on our secondary and tertiary markets, really trying to attract those travelers that just want to get away for a weekend. I'm sick of being in the house. I'm sick of schooling my kids. I'm sick of all that. And let's just drive to a hotel and stay there. And we have been able to capitalize on that quite well within Crestline, which has been wonderful for us. So really trying to retarget our focus of business and really looking at those more extended stay hotels and what can we do there to try and drive traffic, if you will. We had a great summer, surprisingly, at the beaches. I guess everybody really did want to get away. And so, our beach markets did much better than we ever anticipated.
That's wonderful.
But getting to those secondary and tertiary markets and really attracting those folks, even over Thanksgiving, we had a lot of families that couldn't spend Thanksgiving together. So, they came to the hotels and stayed in their separate rooms so they could be together. So really trying to focus on that right now.
Yeah, I realized I lived near the beach. So I realized this summer I was in a pretty, it was tough, but I was in a pretty good mood all the time going down to the beach. And now that the beach is closed and it's cold in New York, I'm like, I just want to go away. I'm having dreams of the beach.
Yeah.
I'm having dreams of it. I woke up this morning dreaming that I was in Vegas, telling my wife I was in Vegas, and she was, "What are you doing in Vegas?" I'm like, I don't know.
I know what you were doing in Vegas, but that's
broker.
Yeah,
I'm dreaming of vacation.
All right. We got a couple of questions coming in. Anthony, I know you wanted us to ask one, but I'm going to go to another one first because we were just talking to Deanne. Deanne, what are you seeing with hotels and hiring? I know we recently featured Crestline on our job fair show, and we will be doing another job fair soon enough because you are hiring. What's going on right now?
We are continuing to hire. For the folks here on the phone, and I'm sure most of you guys are looking for, entry level or mid-level management positions. We are hiring for those. If you go on our website, you will see, we're looking for AGMs. We're looking for, some sales managers. We're looking for front office managers. Now, the one thing is you have to understand, because of the situation we've been in the past, the job roles are different now. Whatever the job description was a year and a half ago, it has changed. And so, you need to be flexible. You've got to be willing to work cross-functionally. Right. The front office manager is also working as the executive housekeeper, also helping, in the bistro if that is open, or just servicing food. You've got to have that flexibility. But we have jobs open, and we are continuing to hire and looking for great talent.
And I think that's a good point. If I could just interrupt there.
Please.
Because I think you bring up a good point. you have to be more flexible and you have to be willing. Listen, we all know the reason you've had any success in your life is because you threw your heart over the wall and your body followed. You put yourself in a position to be successful, and you took every little detail, every little thing that they asked you to do, you did, right? So I get that. But when do we're not going to get back to normal. You're always going, that position, like you said, I'm glad you said that because no one's ever said that on the show before, that those positions, we're not going backwards. You're going to need to have flexibility of thought, flexibility of position. With that said, I've been in this industry long enough to know that hotel companies, management company brands take advantage of that opportunity. So when you do have a little bit more money and you do have a little bit more success, you're still taking that young person at the front desk as assistant general manager doing 27 jobs. So we have to be real sensitive to ensure that, yes, right now you got to do what you got to do. But then there's this opportunity of we have to make sure that we're respecting these young people, older people, because I'm a product of that world. I came into a bankrupt hotel and they asked me to work 19 hours a day, 7 days a week. To this day, I think 19 hours a day, 7 days a week is normal. So that's the thing that I'm more concerned about.
Yeah, but I'll respond to that, Anthony. We totally do not want to have that sort of environment. That's not part of the Crestline culture. We are pushing our folks to take time off. And in order to allow them to take time off, because we don't want them to get burned out, right? Physically, mentally, it's just not good. It's not productive. It's not healthy. So we are pushing them to take time off. And if they are like, I can't go, it's just me and my other 2 managers here and the 5 room attendants, whatever. We're like, okay, we will bring somebody in. So we'll bring in another manager from another hotel to work at that hotel so that whoever needs to take time away can get their time off. So that is critical to us that people step away. It's just,
and it's critical that people in your position understand that, because that's the only way. Because I'm all about, like, I don't care if somebody's working 19 hours a day. I really don't, because you're going to be taken care of. You're going to be promoted. You're going to have a great career. If you're doing what you need to do, and right now the mission is 19 hours a day, I'm not going to feel sorry for you because I'm right next to you. However, I am going to make sure you're okay. I'm going to make sure I'm going to do everything I can to ensure that you understand we're valuable. And I think your company is actually known for that. You've gotten a lot of awards, but it's across the board. I think it's really important that we talk about that.
No, I agree.
I think that's a really good point. We had a wellness program before the pandemic. During the pandemic, since March, we put that program on steroids. We brought in virtual yoga classes for our team. We brought in mindfulness classes. We've done what you just said. Emphasize that, you should, even though you can't get away right now like you want to, you still need to take your paid time off.
Yep.
So it's really important to care about your employees. And
Maggie, how do you see this issue?
Well, I think it depends. So during a normal cycle pre-COVID, we would have very cyclical times where we would be incredibly busy and other times where it would be nearly dead. So we've always encouraged staff to be really autonomous and to allow them to work as they see fit. We have about 25 employees right now, and that's one of, I think, the best perks of what we do is if I need to go run an errand in the middle of the day, I can certainly do that as long as I'm accountable for my own work. And I think being available to staff at all levels and making sure that they have what they need to get their job done is really important.
Yeah. All right. So one question that we have from the audience, and I'm highly interested in becoming a manager at a hotel. Our professor is offering us an opportunity to obtain a THIA degree. How highly looked upon is that in the hotel industry? That's an interesting point because I know a lot of top executives that never had any formal training and have done well for themselves. But it sounds like that's something that could be helpful. Maybe Deanne, you'd be the best to answer this one.
Sure, I'd be happy to. When we think about doing things a little bit differently now too, right? A lot of people do not have the opportunity to get advanced degrees or certifications or things of that nature. So we're looking at what can you bring to the table first and foremost. What is your experience? We have a few general managers that don't have a college degree, but they have the experience. They have that focus. Those things are so very critical. So yes, that is always a plus. I mean, there's some areas that we definitely want you to have certain degrees or certain certifications like HR, things of that nature. It's a plus to have it. It's not a must have. That's just Crestline's philosophy though. I mean, across the industry, there are some companies where if you are a GM, you have to have a 4-year degree in XYZ. So it really varies. So I'd say it's better for you to have it than not to have it, but look at the company when you're doing your research, see what they want, see what they expect. If you don't fit that, then try to market yourself with your strengths and then, keep yourself pushing forward towards that company or look elsewhere where that is not a requirement.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is there's 3 things, right? Showing up, education, and being able to think outside the box. But education is important, experience is important, but showing up is the most important.
Yep.
I mean, the most important thing is making sure whatever opportunity you have, you make the most of it. And those type of certifications are important. But be honest with you, I was in New York City as general manager. I didn't even know what half of them meant. I'll be honest with you. They were on everybody else's resume, and I would look at my resume and go, I don't have any of those things. And so I think showing your diversity, showing your ability to have the experience, having a little bit of an education. You don't have to go to college, but showing progression, whether it be through certification, showing that you want to be in our industry, I think is the most important.
Yeah, and just to add to that real quick, again, that's where that service focus comes into play. And I think for all of us, all 3 is Maggie, Patricia, myself, that service focus is paramount. You just have to have that.
Well, quick follow-up from Professor Bagnera. She works up in Boston. What are aspects of a certification that you look for?
Hold on. I got to throw something in there. Suzanne and I work together, and we're working on a certification program. So that's self-serving.
All right. So this answer is on the record.
So anyone want to answer that?
Anyone? Maggie, you want to go? All right. Let me unmute you. Sorry. Go for it.
No worries. So when we look at resumes, so I also do all the hiring for us and I manage our internship program with George Mason. So when I look at resumes, I really want to see somebody who has attempted something post high school so that they have done the college, that they have done some sort of training. So when I'm looking at specifically at some of the certifications, I want to see that they have tried to learn platforms. I want to see that they understand something either with RevPAR or even something with food and beverage, just that they've tried to add on and do more than just the basic degree. The more that somebody has on their resume is important, but you can also have too much on a resume. I don't need to know that you were a Girl Scout. Like I need basic job performance, skill, and initiative is what we look for in resumes.
How about military? When you see somebody who was in the military, does that make a difference to you?
It's great. We have folks who work for our company who are post-military or who are military spouses. That's always been something. So our company's always really, looked for any sort of improvement to your life or your skills post high school. It could be, volunteering. It could be some sort of specific training, education, military, something. Just, job hopping is a little difficult for us to get past. If we're going to bring people in, we really want to train them and get them really deeply involved. A lot of folks come through and they spend 3 to 5 years with us and move on, which is fantastic. We have folks that are working, at the CES conference with RIMS in New York City. So it's great. We don't mind having that 3 to 5 year span, but
you bring up something very important that people ask me all the time. We all know to make more money, sometimes you have to go to a different position, especially if you're a general manager. I always made more money when I left. And I would say the longest I've ever been anywhere is 7 years. And actually, when I do my TV show for 9 years, everything else has been 2 years, 2.5 years.
Right.
But job hopping is a career killer for me. I see you spend someplace at 6 months and then place 12 months and then 6 months. You're done. I mean, I'm not even going to call you back. I'd like to ask anyone on the panel, what do you think is the right level? Because before you even talk to someone, looking at their resume, you see those dates. What are you looking for as far as that goes?
Yeah, with me, I want to see 2 to 3 years. 2 years is kind of kind of the marker for the millennial generation, if you will, because come 2 to 3 years, they are ready to move on to the next thing. So, 2 to 3 years is definitely where we're at. Anything below that, reason to pause.
Right. Except obviously if there's a pandemic and then you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's
and that's another opportunity. Whereas before, and Patricia, maybe you can answer this. Before, you would look at people's jobs and you would say, okay, they just took a step down. What's that all about? Now during the pandemic, there's an opportunity for you to go from, a brain surgeon to a front desk agent. Like you can really change, and no one's going to question you anymore because, I had a life switch. I don't want to do that anymore. It's the pandemic has really shown me, I went through a lot. I've changed. And I think we're all open to that. What do you think about that, Patricia?
Yeah. I mean, I like to see people who have a curiosity about the world. I see myself as kind of a generalist. I came into the industry as a generalist with, different experience in law and experience in, the political area. So I'm looking for someone who's smart, has curiosity, who has some experience in their background where they achieved some high impact work, where they came into a situation, they solved a big problem, and it shows that they have problem solving skills, they have character. I'm looking for those sort of skills in employees.
So, Glenn, with your permission, can I go to my next subject?
Let me think about that. Okay.
So I'm reading this morning about the new administration's diversity in their cabinet. And it was really, really a pleasure to see so much diversity, whether it be African-American, whether it be Asian, whether it be female. It was really, it warmed my heart, especially coming after Martin Luther King Day. And we have a new day coming, 24 hours from now, literally. So it really warmed my heart. And one of the things that we talked about a lot on this show is diversity. And my whole career, everybody looked like me. All my bosses look like me. Even today, everybody looks like me. So what are we doing? What is each one of your organizations doing to really ensure we have a diverse panel today, which is great.
We have one coming up, an official diversity panel focused on the topic as opposed to just happening to have people of different cultures and backgrounds on Thursday. So tune in for that on Thursday.
Like my daughter, one of my daughters said, "Well, Dad, I don't want your help." I said, "Well, I want to help you. That's what we do. I want to help you, but I think it's really important because people in my position, if you have the majority of people in their position helping their kind of family and their nucleus, it doesn't change. So what are we doing to really in each environment to really make a change in a real way? Because there's a lot of people, man, slap something on social media and they walk away, or they're like, oh yeah, I'm down with the cause, but as soon as it gets controversial, they walk away. So what we're trying to do on this show is really show, really, really dive down to really the nitty gritty. Are we going to high schools? Are we going to junior high schools, colleges? What are we doing? So I'd like to hear that from whoever wants to go first.
Well, I think that it starts from the top down. And, I think there's a heightened awareness of how it is important to our business. It's important to our success as businesses and organizations to have a diverse workforce. We're so much better. I'm speaking for our organization, Visit Alexandria. We're so much better because we have diversity across ethnicity, age, geographic area, across the board, because that's our consumer. Our Americans are much more diverse. And thank God, we have a higher level of consciousness about that and a higher level of seriousness about, walking the walk, not just talking the talk. So yeah, our city has an equity and inclusion officer. Many cities are doing that. And how that relates.
How's that work?
Well, again, it's from the city council. It's from the city making it a priority throughout the city departments and organization and budget decisions. We've been doing it for a long time. It's about, I came on board 8 years ago. And of course, it's who I am. It's in my DNA to think in a through a diversity inclusion lens. So, but you just bring diverse perspectives, and it enhances what we're able to do from a content standpoint, from reaching audiences, from reaching different communities. It just makes us much more effective as organizations. And it comes from the top. Mm-hmm. And we just have to, make those connections with those communities and associations and organizations to create more of a pipeline for talent.
I see lots of head nodding. Maggie?
Yeah. Well, for us, we work with a lot of associations, and it helps us with their perspective on, who they have speak at their meetings. It's really important that we help guide those. For me, at least, it's important that we help guide to make sure we don't have, the traditional mantle or different things like that, where we have different philosophies and different groups represented, because their attendee bases are represented, with ethnic diversity or sexual diversity, things like that. We work with a lot of conservative groups and a lot of very liberal groups. And I think it's interesting to see that all of the groups that we work with are being impacted and working towards a new goal that I think is important to everyone. It's funny, some of our more conservative groups now have female leadership, and I think that's also helping to guide them into maybe a more diverse realm than what they've been in the past. And I think that anything that we can do to help spread diversity between the events, and then also within our own jobs that we create and the companies that we work for, and making sure that everybody has a seat at the table that, is important to everybody.
Yeah, Anthony, I just wanted to add one thing. It's important that it be included as part of the key performance indicator. It's not enough to say, yeah, in my heart, I want to see this happen, but I don't know how to do it. It needs to be part of your key performance indicators. So you're tracking, how diverse is my board? How diverse is my staff? How diverse is our marketing? How diverse and inclusive is our marketing campaigns and photo shoots and consultants that we're working with?
Deanne, do you want to?
Sure. Only thing to add there, like everybody else says, it does start from the top, and our CEO is so great at listening, and nobody's really talked about that piece of it yet. So I'll kind of dive in on that. But listening to what your team has on their mind is so critical, given all the events that happened last year. That has brought up all this heightened awareness, as Patricia said. I have people calling me, not every day, but probably once every 2 weeks or so, saying, oh my God, this just happened. How do I address it? And it's not really something that's happening at work. It's something that happened at home that is troubling to them. And so they're bringing that emotion into the workplace. And they're like, is there anything that the company can do, to address these issues? And so what we are trying to work towards here at Crestline is forming, and we're not calling a diversity and inclusion and equity council or anything like that, but more of a culture council, where we'll get groups of individuals together so that there is an open forum for people to share, so that we actually can't hear what's going on, whether it's coming from one of our stewards in the field, to one of our general managers, to one of our accountants here in the corporate office. So people really have a venue in which to share whatever's on their mind. So whatever opportunities are out there, we know, and we can start working towards that. So it's going to be more of we're calling it a culture council. And again, it is just in its very beginning stages, because we've always had that open environment here, that open and inclusive environment. From the hiring standpoint, we definitely are looking at more what I want to call it, intentional hiring, because we don't have as much representation at the very top as we would like to have to represent all the communities in which we work. But that takes time, right? And that takes turnover for that to happen. But we want to start building that pipeline for the future.
Right.
And it really does, like you said, it starts at the top. It also starts with people at the top having tough conversations. That
Yes.
Your thought process and the way you grew up, the way I grew up, the way all of us grew up, it's different. And I can have a completely different viewpoint than you do. But if we communicate with each other and we love each other, we get to the other side, and we don't have to agree on everything. And I think that, I'm actually getting emotional just talking about it. It's like finally, maybe we break through because we've been through hell, right? And now we're seeing that there's potential. And I'm not saying on either side, because when I start talking about crap like this, people are like, oh, you're this person or you're that person or you support this person. No. You know who I support? I support our military that keeps us safe. And their military is built on diversity. Our military is built on whether you're gay, you're black, whoever you are, you're in that, you're in the Army, you're in the Air Force, you're in the Marines. That co-pilot, you don't care what color they are. You don't care who they love. You care that they're not going to crash the damn plane. And I learned that in the military. I learned that growing up in New York City. And it's just enough, man. It's just enough. It doesn't matter about political. It just matters that we all have to help each other. And it's just great to have a conversation because some of these conversations can be difficult. And there's no reason to get angry about somebody else has a different opinion of yours. We just got to educate.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I talked about earlier was watching and making sure that I am exposing myself to new education and watching webinars and things like that. I will typically really dive into who's speaking. And there was something that a few months ago, something that I really wanted to watch. But I got on and I looked at the list of speakers and they were all white men. And I decided it wasn't worth my time because the topic wasn't worth having various speakers. And it was one company who was speaking and it was all of their leadership. And I have made a decision about that company now. And I've made a decision, that perhaps they're not as valuable to me because they don't bring what I'm looking for.
Maggie, you bring up a great point, and a question that producer Dave put up back behind the scenes here is, how could young hoteliers and students that value diversity within an organization find out about whether or not that company is one they would really want to work for?
I would say one of the first things they can do is look on the website. Mm-hmm. The websites tell a really telling story. To Maggie's point, there's one website out there where every single leader is a white male and they all look somewhat alike.
Right.
And they're all dressed kind of alike. So that is the culture, whatever falls down below there, that is the culture that is going to guide that company. So, that's one of the very first things that people can do. But social media, man, I mean, LinkedIn, from a professional standpoint, you can go on there and you can see, who's the recruiter, who's the director of housekeeping. You can find all that sort of stuff out through social media. It's all out there.
And it's also important for me to say, because I hear this from people, young white people, minorities, but for my white young students that get in touch with me, they're like, it's hard to find a job because I'm not diverse. They're not looking for. I said, that is so full of crap. You're so full of crap. I said, I'll tell you what is the number one priority for most companies: talent, and they just come in all shapes and sizes. Okay, and we've been getting the funnel of talent from one source. So now we just need to open up the different talent pools. So you're going to compete. You're just maybe have a more diverse pool to compete against. But I guarantee you, if you're more talented than somebody else, I'm not looking at skin color. I'm looking at
hands down.
The talent wins. And I think that that's the wrong message. I see, Patricia, you're shaking your head. Did you want to say something about that?
Hold on.
You're on mute.
Yeah. You've muted yourself, Patricia. I know. I did things too. All right, she's working on it. Don't worry. There we go. There we go.
Yeah, my cat was making noise.
Okay.
So, and also, what is that candidate? Be they white, black, brown? What's their view of diversity and inclusion? Some of our strongest our inclusion representative for our organization is white, but she's passionate about that issue. Mm-hmm. And she educates herself, and she's the point person. Even though there are other black and brown people on our staff, she wanted to be in the lead as a representative and to be the lead in training and bringing information back to our organization. So it's not just, it's just important to our industry. This is where the country is, that everyone everyone who's going to be a leader, staff person, have that sensibility.
Talent wins. Talent wins.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think your cat is making some exceptional points as well. So let me pull this. We don't mind because that's the reality of working and living at home. My cats make personal appearances regularly on our show. So I want to go back to a question that we have from the audience, from Enjoy Hospitality. Going about the job hopping scenario, employers should also be reviewed, this person makes. And I found early on in my career, I had no choice but to change jobs frequently, or else I wouldn't get more money and I wouldn't get promoted. So is there a right formula? What's the right balance? How do you determine whether or not Anthony is right about not hiring that person because they've jumped around so frequently versus somebody who might be trying to leverage opportunities in the marketplace to move along quicker than they would have?
But Glenn, just to make a point before our panel discusses it, if you remember what I said, talent wins.
Right.
Maybe it's a talent issue with you. You think?
Well, with me, no, that's the case. But I'm talking about our viewers over here, an extremely talented group of people. All right, who wants to jump on that one?
I can.
All right, Maggie, thank you.
So I think there is a good mix. If you tell me when we're speaking that you hopped around because you were looking for better positions or things like that, then that's one thing. Or if that's something I can deduce from your resume, that's great. However, if I see somebody who's moved between 6 months and 18 months frequently, I'm probably going to think that there could be a personality issue, or just some similar sort of job issue. Most jobs take 6 months to a year for you to fully understand the role that you're in. So if you're moving around too frequently, then I wonder what you're gleaning from the role that you're in.
And Maggie, if I can add to that, and I would like to really understand how you guys feel about this, because we're not. A lot of these organizations, we're not charities. We need you to perform. You're getting a paycheck to perform. And if you have a behavioral issue and your other jobs told you have a behavioral issue, you've got to go find that help. If your organization tried to help you and you didn't listen, you went to another organization and they tried to help you and you didn't listen. And I've had one person that I'm still friends with and I love to death. I've told that person over and over, and I brought them on, they worked for me, and they blew themselves up again. And I tried. You have to go and find an education or a therapist or whoever you need to do. But that behavioral issue is going to follow you for the rest of your career. So if you're hopping around and you're blaming your bosses, you got to look in the mirror. And too many times, to your point, is like you will give people, all right, so you hopped around after 18 months because you want a better career, and I see that you have passion for it. But at the end of the day, you got to deal with that behavioral issue because we're not a charity. We can only support you for so long before we have to promote you to custom.
Mm-hmm. And what's also important is looking at, to the questioner's point, looking at the supervision of the people to see if you have somebody who's leaving frequently or you have high turnover in a specific role, then it's important to figure out what's going on in that role, not necessarily with the person, but with what that person or the employee is going through, to see if the position's tiring or burning you out, or if there's an issue with supervising. So, I think as a company, we're a small company, so it's easy for us to go back and reevaluate who some of our trainers are, and some of our key supervisors, just to make sure that all the employees are happy.
Right. And to be clear, I'm saying after all those things have been exhausted, it's the person's responsibility to ensure they're getting what they need to be successful as well.
All right, so we got a great question because we talked about not staying enough time. What about the notion of being at the same company for 10 years? Is that looked at positively or negatively? Deanne?
We love it. I mean, we have it. Because we love it for two reasons. One, we love to promote from within. So, you take that intern I was talking about who came through our management training program right now. She's been with us now for 7-8 years, and through promotions, she's golden, right? So we love promoting people from within. We have such a high, I think we average about, 38, 42%, somewhere around there, of our internal positions are filled through promotions, which is a really remarkable number. And that offers opportunities for others. So yeah, we're all about being promoted from within. It's better to know the devil you know than the devil you don't, right? and helping people groom. The other thing too is we will often too, if we have a really strong, talented person and we feel that they're not quite in the right role where they're really being able to utilize their skills or their talents, we will redirect them to another area. For example, you may have somebody that's really interested in, I don't know, being in the front office, but they work their way up. They just don't have that customer service. They're better behind, in the back of the house, and they progress their career that way. So there are so many different avenues you can take in our industry to stay with one company.
Good point. If you look at auditors, right? Night auditors work at the front desk. So they'll stay there for a year or two. I was an auditor. And then they get promoted to front desk, the day shift or supervisor.
Right.
And they fail because they like numbers at night and they like checking in free people. So put them in accounting,
Exactly.
Don't get rid of them because night auditors, if you're a good night auditor, it's hard to find. So put them in accounting. And, but so many times I see them work at the front desk and they hate it. And then they get fired. And it's like, no, just move them. They were a successful night auditor and they do like people, but they like people, rarely.
On a small scale.
On a small scale.
That's funny. All right. So
it's true.
Anthony, we're running out of time. This hour has flown by in a way that I didn't expect. So what I'd like is for all of you to each take a minute or two, give us some final thoughts about everything, but also what are the number 1, 2, 3 qualities that you look at when somebody is coming out of university to make them attractive to hire in your position? Maggie, let's start with you, please.
The first thing that I look for is to see that you've done something outside of just your coursework. I don't care if it's part-time job or Greek life or military or something. Just to see that you're able to handle more than just your course load is really important. Then we look to see that, you have taken some classes and skills that are within what you're looking to do, just so that you have a baseline. Working with groups like George Mason, it's really handy because we know that we're going to get a really strong candidate based on them completing parts of the program. So that's always really important. And then also having recommendations listed on your resume is handy as long as it comes from some of the professors. If you have a professor who's willing to put you down as a reference, then that speaks pretty highly versus somebody who could be, not in the industry.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. Deanne, how about yourself?
They've had some sort of service experience, whatever that is. They've done something that shows leadership. Because regardless of whether you are an entry-level position or you're a CEO, you've got to have some sort of leadership capability. And so we're looking for that. And this one might sound really odd, but that they can write. Writing skills are so very important. And so many times I do not hire somebody because they cannot write. So those are the 3, I would say, top things for us that come to mind.
Wow, that's really interesting that you say that. That is definitely a problem that we're having in society, especially, in my opinion, with the rise of social media and the internet and the much more casual tone of conversation that's coming in. Patricia, how about yourself?
I agree with all that my colleagues presented. That was great.
Sorry that you had to go last, that you can't come up with their own.
I know.
It's really hard to come up with something. I say it's back. Maybe the cat will have something to say.
I always say to students, do what you love, the money will follow. A lot of people are saying, oh, the economy is terrible. Oh, they're looking for diverse candidates. Do what you feel you have a calling for, the money will follow. I really believe that. And then again, growing level of leadership and experience. And one last thing I'll say is it's important to develop, cultivate practices that help you deal with stress. We live in a stressful society and we're in a stressful tourism hospitality business. Are you a runner, or do you do yoga? Are you a black belt in karate? Or I look for people who do have an outlet for how they deal with stress. So I think that's really important for life as well as work.
You know what? I think that is critically important, probably the most important that me and Glenn talk about all the time. And because what happens if you don't? You bring it to the workplace and you try to figure it out at the water cooler. And that is not a place to deal with your stress. And so I think that is a really, really, really not only good point, I think that is the most important point in someone's movement, whether it be in career, whether it be in family, is that you need your space to go. And me and Glenn, we, everybody knows where I go. I go to the poker table, or I go work out every morning. That's where Deanne's laughing. Like, you go to poker?
Exactly.
Yeah. When I travel around the world, I stop at a poker table. I do a $200 buy-in typically, and I'll spend 12 hours after doing a keynote speech or whatever I was doing, or working with a client, and I'll spend 12 hours sitting in a poker table with a $200 buy-in and zone out for 12 hours. But that is critically important to me being able to continue on doing everything else I do. And so I think that Patricia, that's the best advice I've heard all day.
And I just want to say that Maggie and Deanne, all your advice was absolutely incredible too.
I feel a little judged by Deanne, to be honest with you, about my poker habit. I don't lose money. I don't lose money. I'm not a gambler. I just like playing poker. But you guys have been great, and this has been. You know what I love about this? We say it all the time. But we start with one conversation. We have 17 conversations. We become family, and all of a sudden, there's this just openness about our community that is so vitally important. And we're all sitting in our little pod. So, so you being on this show is a blessing for us, because it really helps keep the show going. Because these conversations are really important to people that are kind of don't have maybe some of the engagements that we're able to have every day. And so I'm sure you've inspired a lot of people. So thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. We'll have to have you all again back real soon. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys. Wow. All right. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Anthony. I did not expect to have the type of conversation that we had today. And
well, you see, I asked for your permission when I knew I was going to divert. I asked for your permission. You saw that?
Which was really highly unusual, and I'm a little suspect about all that. But whatever. I want to thank you guys for being here. Make sure you check out bestbuy.com/hospitality. We love those guys, and I know you love shopping at them as well. Writing and mindfulness stress outlet strategies are excellent nuggets to add to a program. Yeah, I miss my stress outlet, going to see live music. I can't wait till that comes back. For me, that's my happy place. Anthony, I want to get. We're gonna.
Wait, Chad, ask for my poker face. You ready?
Yeah.
18 hours. I'm like this.
I'm just gonna co-sign. That is 100% true. We were on a trip one time and we ended up at the same place, but he didn't know that I was seeing him play, and I was outside the rail as he was playing, and that is exactly how he sat for the entire 10 minutes I was there watching.
Yeah, what happens is I've learned that my elbow starts to hurt. So I actually, if I know the poker room, so if I know it's not really cushy table, I actually bring an extra sweater, and I put the sweater underneath my elbow because I literally don't move.
It's pretty. That's pretty interesting. All right, I'll get to see that move in just a few weeks, because we are going to be we're going to be doing a road trip up to Resorts World Monticello in upstate New York. So I'm looking forward to seeing that hotel, being there live in person. It is so nice that we'll be able.
And we're going to see some of my favorite people too.
Yes, the next day we're going to go to the Roxbury Hotel. We featured them in this program. You guys would probably remember them. It's having all those insanely awesomely designed cottages. So we're going to get a real live look, and I can't wait to be there. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. We will be back tomorrow, of course, on tomorrow's show. It is Inauguration Day, so we're going to get political. And I just mean hospitality political. We're going to be speaking with the CEO of AHOA, that's Cecil Staten, as well as the current chairman, Biren Patel. That'll be really terrific, and I'm hoping hopefully to have somebody else on there as well. Then on Thursday, we're doing a great diversity conversation. And let's see. Oh, next week we're doing something with Ronan Nissenbaum. He's the CEO of Dan Hotels out in Israel. So I'm looking forward to that. We got Raj Trivedi coming back to talk about fair franchising and what the real truth is about the hotel business.
When's our friend Chip coming back?
I don't know, but anytime any news breaks, Chip is always ready to join us at any single time. So we got to get back on the air real soon. Anthony, any final thoughts?
No, sir. Take us out, baby.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. And remember, just to reflect on what we were saying earlier, the light is growing brighter now and will continue to grow brighter as we make our way through the year. Don't forget, though, you've only got one life, so blaze on and
be kind to each other and be kind to yourself.
See you all tomorrow.